Josh, thank you so much for coming in. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here.
It's nice when people want to come, to be honest. It's really a thrill for us.
I do want to come. I mean, that's the thing, is like I got in here and I was like, it was a huge thing for me. To go right now, I'm experiencing this thing where I go through this streaming on I don't turn on my TV very much. And then you get frustrated and then you end up in Criterion. It's just the way it is. It's the truth. It's not meant to be a commercial.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people work hard to make that happen.
Cool.
So we're here to talk about you as a moviegoer.
Well,
There's nothing required other than the life you've lived, the movies that have moved you, the experiences that you've had. So why don't you draw a little picture for us of the world that you grew up in, and then lead us up to when you first remember seeing a movie.
I was born in Santa Monica, California, at St. John's Hospital. Fourth generation, I believe. My dad's from Newport Beach. My mom's from Texas, and even though she kind of thrived in LA in the wildness that she did, she wanted to move back to the country. So when I was 5, we moved up to Paso Robles, California, which is Central Coast, California. And there was a time in that transition, moving from LA, that I ended up, and I don't necessarily remember it, I think I do, but I was taken to the theater to see Steve McQueen's The Blob at 4. Why? I don't know, but I've confirmed that that happened. So that was my first theater experience, I believe.
And you don't remember who took you?
I don't want to know. All I remember is being, and then we can cut to later Jaws and all that and staying out of the water, or Friday the 13th and not wanting to get in bed. But because of the blob coming out of the toilet, I had an issue with toilets for about a year. And I was only 4, man.
Sure.
So that's 4.
Yeah.
4 to 5.5.
That's
4
rough.
to 5, I had an issue with toilets.
Yeah, that's up close stuff.
That's up close stuff.
Yeah.
So the first real impactful, other than motorcycles, which I was put on at 3.5, the biggest impact of my life in my memory is a movie.
So that really was like in the scheme of your life, that was a big experience, not just like your big movie
massive
experience.
experience, not a big experience, a massive experience. It's what I go back when I try to kind of push my memory into, like, what are the great milestone moments? Like, what do I remember? Do you remember horses? Do you remember this? Do you remember that? It's The Blob.
Well, aside from the toilet bit, which is the kind of gold that we're here for, why is it so massive for you?
Because, which we'll talk about later, the theater became for me, and I don't know if it started there, but the theater became for me like the stripping away of everything. The theater has always been and continues to be a place where I can go, where I can let everything go. There's something about going in the theater once those lights go down and that communal feeling. I'm experiencing it with other people, even though I'm not communicating with these other people, that feels like a Technicolor sensorial experience. And that's cool. I like that. It makes me very emotional.
So you moved to Paso Robles, right? Were you keeping journals all the way through your life?
I was from 8 years old, I think 8 years old on. And I have all the journals. I have them all.
So as you were preparing your book, did you find like records of all the movies that you'd seen?
In my 20s, I would see 6 or 7 movies in a day.
Wow.
Especially in Tucson, Arizona, when I was doing a series called The Young Riders. I would have these days off, but I was, you go through these moments of like, I'm gonna watch all the Japanese filmmakers, I'm gonna watch all the French film, I'm gonna be my Truffaut phase and my Kurosawa phase and all that. And then you start to learn, because it's such a labyrinth, it's such a maze. You're like, oh, that person influenced that person, and that movie influenced that movie, and that's a remake, but nobody knows it's a remake, and all that.
Well, you're actually couldn't do a better job of sort of describing the premise of this encounter that we're doing, because I definitely think of moviegoing as an adventure. It takes me places that I can't go otherwise. It teaches me about the world in ways that I wouldn't understand it otherwise. And I think a lot of the time it's been a way that we've knit the world together. Like we've come to understand each other from different perspectives. I've always thought it's really interesting that like Rashomon, this movie about multiple perspectives on truth, is kind of the first international film that starts to consolidate conversation across the world after the Second World War. Like we're never gonna actually see this the same way. So I love the big stuff that movies can do, and I love the way you described this. So let's go back. So you're in Paso Robles. Is there a movie theater there? Is that a regular thing for your life?
Well, I heard you say, let's focus on, movie theaters, but I remember that my dad getting one of the first, but at that time, VCR.
Oh, wow.
And there were 3 movies that we got. And it was Saturday Night Fever, Grease, and The Warriors. I've seen The Warriors 66 times. I've seen Grease probably 35 times. I know all the dances and I know all the songs. And I've seen Saturday Night Fever a lot. I was in Paso from 5 to 11. So, and those are the 3 movies that I remember seeing over and over and
Sure.
over. And think about, Saturday Night Fever is a very impactful, very dark
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
And then, and Grease is such a fun film. It's the same actor, Travolta, but it's a really fun film. And then The Warriors, gave me an identity out in the middle of nowhere as this country
Sure.
kid. And then I would go carry around bats. And that's the thing, is you're acting out these movies and you're trying to incorporate them into your life.
Yep. What did you take away from 66 viewings of The Warriors?
Community, loyalty, grit, turf. Even thinking about it now, I see it manifesting. I'm a very kind of old school guy in that way, where it's like, no, this is my turf and I protect this turf. Now, is that something that, that I came up with? Right? So just some bleed over from The Warriors.
Sure. Were there other Warriors that you were connected to? Did you connect through this movie? Were there other people you were watching it with 66 times, or was this a kind of solo voyage?
Once I moved to Santa Barbara, I started seeing it with other people. The Warriors continued. I don't know if the 2 other movies continued so much, but The Warriors kind of bled into Santa Barbara, along with other movies. And I will say this, my dad took me to the Mission Theater in Santa Barbara in 1979 when I was 11 to see Apocalypse Now. And that was the next big milestone. That affected me, affected or traumatized, whatever word you want to use, but I think in a very positive way, because that's an unforgettable experience.
Where did you find yourself in that film?
It was the Brando character. And then I read the book later, as a teenager still, by Joseph Conrad, and it's a very different character in that book and what Brando did. And then you get into Hearts of Darkness,
Sure.
which Eleanor did, Coppola, and then you start to find, did Brando even read the script, or did he read the book? Which, to me, there's magic that can come from that, because there's a letting go that happens when you're performing, that it's not always the case. The more you know, the better.
Yeah.
Because then you get kind of rigid in your design. And where does magic happen? Magic happens with people, magic happens in moments that you don't see coming. So how do you recreate that when you're acting? And I think Brando was a genius at that, of you tell me what I need to know, and then I'm just gonna go off with my acute imagination. And that's what I reacted to when I was 11 years old watching Brando, because I reacted, I think, to the power, to the poetry, it's a guy who had gone insane, but did he really go insane? Or did he really find, at least in how he was presented, did he really find a niche for him that was beautiful for him? And isn't that what we're all trying to find, is our beautiful niche?
I mean, movie watching as a solitary experience is one of the most beautiful things, I think. You really can engage with it in your own way. You don't have that feeling of worrying about whether the person you're sitting with is having the same experience that you are. I remember the first movie that I ever showed my wife before we got married, our first sort of home date, was Paper Moon.
Oh my God, such a great movie.
So great, right? But I was
theater.
so worried that she wasn't going to have
The experience
the heart
that you
for
had.
It was almost like, if this doesn't work, this is going to be a problem.
It's like a dating
This
service
is possibly going to be a
online.
problem.
It's where's your connection?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Did you have people that you think of that you first, when did movies become a point of connection for you, or were they always solitary?
They were always solitary. I know a lot of people who say, I've never been to the movies alone. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
I prefer to go to movies alone. And I know that there were times, and part of it was, maybe bouts of loneliness or whatever.
Sure.
But I remember in Westwood, when I lived in Westwood, when I was 17, 18, something like that, that there was, I think it's like a CVS now, and it was a multiplex. And I would see 3 or 4 movies in a day. But by the way, Paper Moon, I remember seeing, my dad took me to see Paper Moon before Apocalypse Now. I'm just remembering that right now. In Paper Moon, I remember having a real communal experience with my dad.
It's a great
It's an unbelievable
parent-child movie.
Oh my God.
And Addie Prey, like that character, the idea that the adult in the family is the kid, that was a thing that I could relate to as a kid.
For sure.
But you talked about like really immersing yourself. I'm kind of curious about how that first manifested itself, like that urge toward cinephilia and early binging. Like, how did that emerge, and what were the kinds of movies that you were seeking out? What was it? Was it just like seeing all the latest stuff?
That's what it probably ended up being. But I think partially movies, like museums in different times in my life, were a solace for, within my loneliness. And I think that there's times where I would feel antisocial or whatever, and then movies became friends. And I accept myself now at 57 years old, and I go, oh yeah, that's just me.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's the road that I travel. But I think then I was, you don't know. You don't have a real identity yet, or you think something's wrong with you, or you're living this kind of misfit life, and you're like, I'm broken, or I'm this. So if I go see movies, there's nothing broken. It was like you're reading Freud or you're reading Sartre or something, and you go, that's what I'm doing right now. I know. And then when you get into filmmakers, you go, oh, that's who they were reading.
Yeah.
These people are obsessed with the human condition. They are trying to figure it out too. So now I'm a part of trying to figure all the shit out. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so there is a community. So I am part of a community as opposed to being a successful actor. So what's the excuse? Acting is a pain in the ass, man. It's just a torture. It's a profession of embarrassment and ridicule. So you go, why would you do that? So when people say, I want to be an actor, I go, oof, bummer. For what?
Bummer for you.
Yeah, bummer for you. Like, you want to live this life
Sure.
of like, I don't know if I have a job, and then I have a job, and then you get judged for the job, and then the movie does well, and people are like, oh my God, you're so great. And the movie doesn't do well, and they go, hi, how are you? And they take off. You know what I mean? It's like, why would you ask? You wouldn't wish that on anybody. But if you're a lover of movies, if it's resonated in you for cellular reasons, it's given you life, you're like fucking willing to survive this torture.
Do you remember a moment where you started to steer your own movie-going career?
Yeah, and I think it had to do with following up on certain movies and not wanting to let certain experiences go. So I would research certain movies. Where did that come from? When did they write it? Why did they write it? So then when you start to research and all that, was it then? I think it was that, along with reading. I remember going in a lot of bookstores and reading a lot of different things, which got me into French literature, which got me into French filmmaking. And then I started, watched typical 400 Blows,
Sure.
Truffaut. And then that turned me on to Jules and Jim. And then that turned me on to other French filmmakers.
Do you think 400 Blows was the first foreign language film you watched, or that you remember?
It's the first foreign film that I remember having a major impact on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, if you think about it and you want to create a through line, you go Apocalypse Now, 400 Blows. These are about isolated, lonely, surviving on your own, which is obviously a theme that I connected with early on.
Yeah.
With a lot of different movies.
Yeah.
Is there a film that I'm turning it around now.
Great.
Is there a film that you go back to again and again that never disappoints? I'm sure there's a lot.
That's on my list. You read
Really?
my question.
Oh, really? Okay.
You read my question. I'll answer if you answer.
Dog Day Afternoon, I can always go back to.
Yeah.
I can always go back to. And I don't think it's the best made movie. I don't think it's the most incredible cinematography and all that. It just feels raw.
Yeah. Fantastic performance at the center of it, but also I think a director, and Sidney Lumet, who's somebody who really understood what it means to be in the service of the story, the actor, the whole thing. I never think of him as being flashy, and I think of him as having coaxed unbelievable performances out of so many
Angry
people.
Men. His first film? Are you kidding me?
Incredible.
His first film?
Insane. But what a cast.
But a great cast doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a great movie.
Yeah.
And it comes back to a visionary, a brilliant storyteller? It comes back to the filmmaker.
I think there's a humility thing there too. I think that, to make those films work,
Yeah.
you have to have a certain humility as a director, even though you have total command.
Yeah.
I think the combination is there in a way that I find really inspiring and moving, and to be able to be present, be quiet, and get the job done, I think is really an incredible capability.
So tell me, like, give me three filmmakers that you think have great humility, but also the necessary ego to be a leader.
Oh my gosh, wow. I never answered my other question. We'll start with Kurosawa, because that's one of the answers to my question. I think Seven Samurai is a cheat, because it gives you 7 totally different approaches to what it means to be honorable, what it means to be brave, what it means to be generous, what it means to be passionate, what it means to be a leader, what it means to be to understand how to follow. All those things in the Seven Samurai, and then it's like full of all this incredible humor. The villagers are just an amazing cast. The scope of the filmmaking is incredible.
Yeah, that's a movie that I can go back to, and I get something from it. We talk about movies that you get something from again and again and again. And that's one of those movies.
You mentioned Truffaut. That might have been your first kind of deep dive into a filmmaker, or did Apocalypse Now make you watch all the Coppola films? And
well, how many were there at that point?
I guess
not a lot. But it would get you into Scorsese. So being a fan, man, yes. So Coppola threw me into De Palma. It was all those guys, and then I got super into it. And then I saw Taxi Driver, which it doesn't matter how many times I've seen it. That's another one that I can go back to.
Yeah. So I remember that moment, like the late 70s, turn of the 80s.
Yeah.
That moment when all of those guys who were all came up at the same time, and we had the late stages of whatever, the New American or the New Hollywood,
It's the warriors of filmmakers.
Yeah, unbelievable. Was there a period, did you just become ravenous about stuff? Or is it, you mentioned that it kind of flows, ebbs and flows, maybe times of boredom and times when you have to kill time on a set in a remote location?
This is what movies do for my life. And I'll say, and then I'll go back and answer your
No,
question.
this is the question. That was the answer.
Is that there was a movie that I was doing that's a very good movie. And when I was acting with somebody, and it was only a few lines, it was a very short scene, and I heard, as clear as you talking to me now, this is so dumb. And it wasn't until, we have a ranch in Paso Robles now, not the same ranch I grew up on, but I got up there for a day and a half, 2 days by myself. And I have a lot of DVDs still. I have a DVD player still. I don't just rely on streaming. So I went and I started playing behind the scenes of like Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, Godfather. And I started playing all the behind the scenes. And I spent about 4 hours just watching behind the scenes. And after that, I was so grateful to be in the movie industry and to be in the storytelling profession, that it literally wiped it away. And I've been in ever since, and trying to deepen my experience of being involved in these movies. So yes, I've gone through many different eras of, I'm gonna watch Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, and I'm gonna watch all those movies. I like that. You were talking about it early on. The Coen brothers have it in spades. It's like, there's an ego there, for sure, but there's a great humility. They refuse. I remember when we were doing Hail Caesar, somebody came up and they said, hey, there's somebody else doing a 1950s fixer movie. And they go, oh, really? There was no if that comes out at the same time that our movie comes out, it could affect the business of our, it didn't even cross their mind. They're like, oh, somebody else is doing a movie too? Good for them.
Great. Hard to make a movie.
We're doing our movie. We're just doing what we do because we really enjoy doing what we do.
Do you have that kind of relationship with them or any of the filmmakers that you've worked with, where are movies a form of communication with the people that you're creatively collaborating with, or is it still much more privately just for you and for your own becoming?
I'm lucky enough to have gotten involved with some amazing filmmakers, and they don't sit around and talk about films. Ever. So I think we all, in a very isolated, kind of misfit way, have our own personal experiences. So we're pretending to live life in whatever ways we are, in the most awkward ways. I don't know a great filmmaker that's a cool person. they're all fucking weird. Like, and I'm sure, including myself, I'm not a filmmaker per se, but I think that it's the coming together and the communing of this kind of misfit mentality, or feeling a bit like, and I'm not trying to say that as like an affectation, but just a bit of an outcast, you know? Ethan Cohen is a philosophy major. Right there, that puts him on the outside, you know what I mean? Why? Why'd you do that? You know what I mean? Joel, Denis, all these people, if they didn't have filmmaking, I don't know. I think we would all be in the same flophouse. So in talking about films, it just doesn't, that feels like something you do when you're not in films.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm in this
Yeah,
weird
yeah, yeah.
place where I'm such a cinephile and I want to geek out about movies. But then when I'm around these amazing filmmakers, I refuse to talk about movies because I know that we're all in the same position where we're almost embarrassed to talk about movies.
So do you have a favorite person to talk about movies with?
Well, I bring it up all the time to Ethan Cohen. I mean, I would sit, it's in the book, I would sit there and I would say, you know, we would all be sitting in a circle and it was super awkward, nobody talking. Like, why is nobody talking? Makes no sense. Like, we're all in it together and we're waiting to do a scene. And then I would say, like, I'm not to break the silence or anything, but I have a script that I think you guys would be great for. And you'd hear this kind of, oh man. And I think I saw, like, I mentioned at one point a script about a submarine, and then Hail Caesar happened. There was a submarine in Hail Caesar. Now, I don't know if that was a direct result because of what I said or not. But yeah, just like, it's all a joke.
Are there lines from movies that go through your head and that for some whatever reason, they don't have to be particularly momentous, but they just present for you?
God, man, it sounds so morbid and depressing. Like, literally the first thing was Apocalypse Now and Brando saying horror, the horror. It's horrible. I don't like that that's come into my head. I wanted to say something from, like, Grease.